Hey everybody, today on Cool Boys Garage we're working on a 2015 Freightliner Cascadia with a DD15. Right here I've got a blown wheel seal. Come over here and take a look at it. If you look right down in here, you see tons of gunk and grime everywhere. Now if you look on the other side, she's beautiful. So we know we got a wheel seal. Our driver was out and about and told me that they get hauled off on the side of the road by another trucker. They get out, they smell burning oil. Well, guess what? This is why. So I'm gonna walk you guys through a step-by-step of how to change a wheel seal on this truck, what to check, what to inspect, and how to do it as cheap as possible. I know there's a lot of owner-operators out there that would love to be able to do this work themselves. They're scared to, and when they go to a shop, they want to change brakes, they want to change wheel bearings, they want to change the wheel seal every single time, and they're going to charge you for 10 cans of brake cleaner. Well, we're going to do it here today for maybe $60 all in for all materials. I know that I'm going to get comments saying that this is not the recommended way, it's not the right way. I understand that. Shops have to maintain the liability of doing the repair, so they have to change the brakes because they're oil soaked. But in my experience, I've been able to get away with not doing brakes every single time. I don't think these ones are that bad. We're gonna inspect them together and we're gonna see. I've got a parts washer, I've got brake cleaner, I've got all these parts. And this is the same on all big trucks. They all use a very similar setup. You might have a ABS sensor in a different spot or something similar to that, a different size wheel nut, a different type of wheel nut, but they're all very similar. So let's dig into this. I'm going to show you all what we have to do. Before you do anything, grab yourself a set of wheel chocks. Now I might not be known for being the safest person to ever walk this planet, but we're going to be jacking this wheel up, this side of the axle on the rear. We're going to be having that wheel all the way off on a jack stand, and it just, for your own safety, use some wheel chocks. That's why I'm using them, is to show you guys. Now you'll also see here, if you come over this way, that we are a little bit parked on a hill. I tried to park with this side up so that we lose as little oil as possible. So we have that to our advantage, plus I'm going to jack up on this side to be able to get the wheels off, so hopefully we'll lose just about no oil. It'll all go to that side and stay in our bumping. So I've got a bottle jack here and a jack pad. I'm not on concrete, so I'm going to use a jack pad. Even if I was on concrete, if your concrete ain't very thick, still use a jack pad, because this little profile here supporting what is probably 4,000 pounds, something close to that, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I just pulled the number out of my butt. You could definitely crack some concrete. So we're gonna go ahead and use this stuff, and you should too, if you can. Doing a wheel seal, you have to use wheel chocks. You gotta take the brakes apart, you gotta get the brakes off. You ain't gonna get that drum off with the brakes engaged. So you've got to release the parking brake when you do it, and without wheel chocks, this thing is going to roll away. That's all it's going to do. Grab yourself a deep well 15/16, at least on these trucks. I know Max are the same, Peterbilts are the same, at least the newer ones. So we're going to pull this axle shaft out real quick. All these nuts are nice and loose. I'm going to show you all what you got to do for that. Go ahead and pull the axle out. I'll show you how to get that done. So apparently I was wrong. A Freightliner Cascadia does not have acorn washers. If you run across something that does, which are these like V-shaped washers, and you're trying to get that axle tube out, all you got to do is loosen all your nuts. And I like to, when I'm doing them, I like to leave the nut on just a little bit on each stud, just past the thread, the end of the stud, to help protect them in case you miss. And you gotta grab yourself a mini sledge or a big sledge and just give her a good few taps. They probably won't be very tappy. They'll be pretty tough taps, but yeah, that's all you got to do to break those acorn washers loose. There you go. Axle tube's broken. We're broken loose. Now we do need to jack up a little bit higher. It looks like it's a little bit. This might just be the oil that's on this side of the bearings. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this shaft out and see how much oil we lose. I'm suspecting it won't be very much. Just gonna let that drain for a moment. Ain't really quite the right type of pan, but it's a pan. Pull this axle tube out gently, try not to let it scrape too bad. There we go. One axle tube out. Find somewhere to put this baby. Alright, so now that we have the drums off, we have the hub off, to remove the shoes, I like to start by using a crescent wrench to lift up on the side that has the big spring on that holds the shoes together. Lift that up, and then there's a roller pin that sits on top of the S-cam. Pull that roller pin out on the top, and then do the same thing on the bottom. That'll give you a little bit more room to get in there with a pair of some sort of specialty tool. So at work, I have a pry bar with a slit cut in it. If you have a pry bar that you can spare, I would highly recommend you do that. It feels much safer than what you're about to see me do. But because I'm not at work, I'm at home, I'm gonna use a piece of rebar and a pair of channel locks to grab underneath the spring so I can pry up on the spring and get it off of the little pin. So you're about to watch me do that. Now all you've got left to remove the shoes is just flip the top one completely over back, and they will both come off. The springs will stay attached, the two of them will stay together. You can set them down on the ground next to you and go ahead and get ready for the parts washer. My recommendation to you guys is to go pick up a parts washer just like this one for 80 to 100 bucks. Having a parts washer is a very useful tool in any shop, no matter how big or small. All you're going to do here is just wash everything as clean as you can possibly get it. You're about to see how clean I'm gonna get mine, and just shoot to get yours just about as clean. Now we're trying to clean everything that we can in this, so that goes the shoes, all the hardware, everything that you can fit in your parts washer. Go ahead and clean them up. Now you are still gonna have to go ahead and buy 4 or 5 cans of brake cleaner for a job like this, but it's much less than if you didn't have the parts washer. Now with the brake cleaner, you're going to go ahead and spray down anything that comes out of the parts washer after it's had time to dry in the sun. Go ahead and still spray it down. You're going to also want to do the same thing with the hub. Use some rags. Don't waste a bunch of brake cleaner, but to get final touches, go ahead and use some brake cleaner on the hub. And don't forget to do the spindle and clean everything around the spindle so that it doesn't look like it's still leaking when you come back and check it in 3 weeks. So folks, now the voiceover section is over. We're gonna go back into regular old recording. So here's my old wheel seal. We've done cleaned everything up. These brakes don't look that amazing, but we're on a budget here today, and we're just gonna reinstall these babies just like they are. I've cleaned up the wheel bearing, this collar for in the middle, and this whole hub is now nice and pretty. Got all the oil off of it. So we're gonna get a new wheel bearing, wheel seal. This collar, the dimple goes down. Inner wheel bearing on top. And then, time for the wheel seal. Remember to put that stuff in there. If you don't, you're gonna tear this wheel seal back out and have to replace it because you can't reuse it. So you should be using a lubricant that is the same lubricant that'll be in the axle, which for this will be 9140. But let's just say that that's what I'm using. I'm gonna rub that all around the collar here, where that on the seating position. Nice and oiled up, and on the seal where it's going to be hitting that metal. I do like to use an actual assembly lube typically for this, but I'm at home. I don't have all the same stuff that I have at work, so we're gonna make this work here. Now it's pretty simple as far as the actual installation goes. You're gonna, on every seal that you go to install, every wheel seal that I've ever seen, there's a side that says air side. You can see it right here. That's the side that faces outside of the hub. So set that baby down on top. Try to get it as close to level as you can. That not enough? That's not enough. Something like that. Grab yourself a block of wood. There are actual installers you can use, and I'm not against it by any means, but I ain't going out and buying one, and this works just fine. People have been doing it like this for years and years and years. So it's gonna go work a few taps. So let's go walk over there to the truck. So go ahead and grab yourself a rag, clean up these threads here, because this is gonna be the last chance you're gonna get to do that on this type of spindle that has the nut kind of like inside of it. It's not really removable. Do a little cleanup right here. Get all the gunk out of that. Awesome. So now we're just gonna go ahead and grab your hub. We're trying to get this thing all on in one motion. I'm not trying to. What you really don't want to do is get it somewhat put on, slid over, and then not supported in the front. You start flexing that hub, and it will do that if you're not careful. You'll just tear the seal out. Right now, it's not actually sitting on the hub or on the wheel seal, so we're just fine at the moment. Line up your pin just like that, and then we're about to start sliding onto the axle. So, see here if I can start this nut. Now, I believe this side, this type, is not one that I'm actually going to physically. Okay, yeah, so I don't actually have to physically push it onto this shaft here. It'll actually just tighten up with the nut, which is a little bit different than what I'm used to, but that's the style that this truck is. So we're not gonna be tightening. You should have a torque wrench to do this. You don't want to over tighten.
Hey, you want to break everything, Bar?
No, man, we definitely don't need that. You don't need that for this one. We're just gonna go ahead and wing this one with the same torque spec everybody else uses. I feel like that's gonna be pretty accurate. If y'all have something to say about it, please let me know. I have no shame in redoing it if somebody could find me the actual torque specs for this axle. So we're gonna, and no breaker bar, or no, and no torque wrench. So it might be about right. So we're gonna do 250 foot-pounds while spinning. Air gap over here. So air gap is referring to the distance between the ABS sensor and this plate back here. All these grooves in this plate on the back of the hub, that's for your ABS sensor. You look for, I mean, just barely a gap. I don't know the actual specs on them, but usually you can eyeball them. I've always been able to eyeball them, and that looks just about right. You know, there's a little bit of room in there. You can see light through it, but there's definitely no big old gap. And you got like to watch that it's not the hub isn't flexing or walking back and forth any. Next thing, we're gonna go ahead and install our keeper spring. So on this one, it goes in to the groove and then flips down, and then the actual spring just goes around the sides of the nut, just like that. That nut ain't going nowhere. Now, don't forget this, because I've done it before. It's a rookie mistake. It happens to everybody at some point. You want to know how many rags you put into this axle. You want to count them when you pull them out, or at least make sure there ain't none in there. So, pull one out, pull two out, and you got to think, did you put two in there, or did you put three in there? Well, I can look right down into the bumpkin, so I'd say I put two in there.
Hey, dude, look what I found.
Oh, check that out. Alrighty, so this part of the hub install is done. All we have left is to install the axle shaft. So now that we're back to voiceovers, what you're going to do now is you're going to hang these springs from this top shoe to the bottom shoe, just like this. So this is the way, now this is the way that I always do brake chain or drum brakes, but just the other side. Now that you've done that, set the shoes on that back roller and then peel the shoes around to the front, just like this. So if you followed this video exactly, you'll be kicking yourself in the butt just as much as I am right now. You see, I went ahead and installed the hub before putting this large spring on for the shoes, and I should not have done that. So if you're watching this video first, here's a heads up. Go ahead and reinstall your shoes just like I took them apart originally, but do it before you put the hub back on so that it's not in your way. If you have a pry bar that you cut a slit into, this is not that difficult, but if you don't, then you are going to regret this part. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go again with a pair of channel locks, and instead I'm going to use a pry bar up on top of the S-cam, because I'm going to hook the bottom first with the hooks facing away from the hub, and then use that pry bar to lift the spring up and try to hook it onto the pin. It's not going to be easy, but it is always doable. The next part, in my opinion, is the easiest part of this entire process. It's reinstalling these little rollers. All you're going to do is the exact same thing we did when we took them off. Grab your crescent wrench, go ahead and push down on the bottom shoe, slide it in between the S-cam and the shoe, make sure that the metal retaining clip is in a way where you can actually pull it out, and make sure when you install it, you actually push it in and lock it into the shoe. There's little divots in the shoe where the pin will slide in and lock. Now, go ahead and go grab your brake drum and slide her on. Be careful of your fingers. Grab this thing around the outside of it. Do not put your hands inside. You will smash them and you will cry. This next part here, we're going to go ahead and grab our axle shaft and grab yourself some sort of RTV. There is a gasket you can use, but I've never even seen one in person, honestly, so I don't believe that they're real. I think it's all myth. what I always do is just grab myself some Ultra Gray. This is Ultra Black. Ultra Black's a more oil resistant version, so it ain't gonna hurt. It's what I had laying around. And you're gonna cover everything just like you're seeing me do here. Now go ahead and grab your axle shaft and start sliding it into the axle tube. Again, be very careful with it. You ain't trying to chip anything. You're not trying to damage it at all. Slide her on in, and once you start to feel those teeth at the end, you're going to have to try to put your hand as close as you can to the inside of the axle shaft and try to pry it upwards to get it over the lip and into the pumpkin.
Boom.
Now we're going to go ahead and tighten up these 8 nuts around this axle tube. Torque spec is pretty universal for these, around 120 foot-pounds. If you made it here, we've made it just about to the finish line. There's a couple more important things to do, but first we're going to start out by putting our wheels back on. You're probably asking yourself, why was that guy just trying to tighten the wheels down with them still in the air and the brakes released? Well, the answer for that is because without having the wheels tight up against the drum, then the drum doesn't sit flush up against the hub, and when you do your brake adjustment, there won't be an accurate adjustment by any means. So what I try to do is tighten them as much as I can, and then adjust my brakes somewhat, at least tighten them down, and then go ahead and finish trying to tighten them, set the truck down, then I can adjust my brakes. The brake adjustment on this truck is going to be tightening the S-cam all the way down with the brakes released, and then backing it off 2 quarter turns or 1/2 turn. That's how the drives are. I believe the steers on these trucks within spec is 1 full turn backed off, but the drives are 1/2 turn. Now all you've got left is set the truck on the ground, check your brake adjustment again, check your axle fluid, and go on a test drive. I was super happy to bring y'all along with me on doing this job. I can maybe help some of y'all learn some of this stuff. Maybe y'all can help me learn a little bit from the comments. So I can't wait for next time and something.